picked and banned during this first map.
So we know compLexity, they like the aggression. They like to run very technical style combinations with their heroes. We saw some Johanna Kerrigan run yesterday to some good extent. So maybe we're expecting to see the PLEYZ start to target some of those things. But actually, we're going to see the tried and true, the ban on Illidan, and of course, compLexity first banned Zeratul.
So compLexity Gaming, they really had a breakout performance yesterday up against Vortex. That wasn't really kind of how a lot of people saw it going. But they used the Zeratul, McIntyre Zeratul. So them banning it out, and despite the fact that they have first pick, tells me that they're not necessarily going to be looking for a Zeratul Illidan. It could actually be a Kerrigan later.
Yeah, we see the first pick on Sylvanas for compLexity. It is Sky Temple, but I mean, I gotta say, Sylvanas is really good on any of these battlegrounds.
Yeah, Sylvanas just seems to be one of the better general overall picks, akin to Jaina, really, in terms of this. And well, there you go, the PLEYZ. Let's grab Jaina with Tassadar.
But a Tassadar first pick, the PLEYZ really want to solidify not only the information control with the Oracle, but as well one of those very precious promotes.
Okay, we're moving into the next two picks before the second ban phase, and we're going to match that Jaina with an additional spellcaster. This is going to be Kael'thas for compLexity, and there's the Kerrigan. We talked about that aggressive style that compLexity likes to run, and it looks like they're starting to build that out now.
All right, so Kerrigan is just absolutely the queen of initiation. There's so many grass bushes around that, you know, she gets right up next to you, and that's a big combo. All ready to combo with Kael'thas and Sylvanas. It's looking good early.
You know what? We're talking about Kerrigan. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at her abilities in particular. And we mentioned this combo over and over and over again. Well, what does that mean exactly? And of course, we're talking about the Primal Grasp, and you combo that up with the Impaling Blades, right? So that's going to be, you set up the blades, you pull the enemies into it, and it's a really long stun. So oftentimes you'll see that even paired up with Ravage, which is a quick leap onto enemy heroes or minions as well. So a lot of mobility and can quickly get in your face and start to really put out that stun potential. Maelstrom, also got to talk about it, really superb in team fights.
Yeah, big AoE damage. Every point of damage that she does actually transforms into a shield for her. So that she does get to pair it up with Uther a lot of the time, because a shield plus more shields, it allows a generation effect on, go on with that. But look at that. Uther is going to be banned out. The PLEYZ knows that they cannot afford to have compLexity with that combination. But Brightwing on the other side as well. No cleanses, Kubi.
Yeah, taking them all away. And I gotta say, I think at this point, compLexity has to be used to not being able to play Uther. They, of course, would love to get it, but most of the teams at this point are well aware they like to run that Kerrigan-Uther combo. And they're taking the Rhaegar. I like this. That is the next option of burst healing that compLexity would very likely want to grab. So they're taking that away. I like that. They also pick up the Johanna as well.
Yeah, and at this point, you have the big damage in terms of Jaina. You have the heals from Rhaegar and that crowd control ability that you get from the Condemn with Johanna. I guess questions I'm thinking about are going to be their big damage plays, but how do you round out this composition? It feels like a lot of the damage is already in place for compLexity.
Well, compLexity is going to need to put up probably the Malfurion in the next little bit, and then a Warrior on top of that. The PLEYZ, I think, is kind of going to be forced into a little bit of a Vala or the Vikings, a big map. Vikings, you can really get a lot of value with the Soak, especially since you have to go up and look around the battlegrounds for those temples. But Tyrael is going to be the big initiation as well as the Kerrigan. So Kerrigan early, but level 10 Judgment from Tyrael. That's a great diving, buddy.
A great disruption in those team fights with the Judgment ability. Stunning one target, knocking the rest away. Kerrigan can get in to try to clean that up. I think that's a solid gameplay. And you mentioned the extra amount of damage that might be the follow-up for the PLEYZ. That is going to be what rounds out their composition.
We've seen a lot of Falstad this weekend.
We really have.
Yeah, pretty reasonable amount. I'm mostly looking forward to seeing, especially on this battleground, where you have those temples that you're going to be fighting over. Sometimes you get them all spread out. Of course, we've seen that they start with the center and the top one, but how exactly they end up going for them will be a whole other story. That mobility, very key, especially when you consider the up close and personalness that we'll see from Kerrigan.
That is right. Of course, yeah, you mentioned that mobility, and knowing when the temples are going to spawn and where is also a big deal. So you can make use of that split pushing in the bottom lane, etc., and then fly up with Falstad.
All right, guys, we're going to get this game going. Game number 1 of our second match of the day. compLexity going to be taking on the PLEYZ. And you see the PLEYZ here all lined up on the left-hand side. They will be the blue today, as LexUther, Zeus, Evandrinde, Daihuu, and PyratRum are going to be looking strong here for game number 1.
All stacked up towards the center, of course. On the other side from compLexity, we have Hans, we have Cattlepillar, McIntyre, Trummel, and Blinks all getting ready to move towards the center position of this battleground as it opens up, immediately going for that tower. They want that vision. They want to be able to see where the enemy positions themselves.
Yeah, a lot of the time you will have, and we've seen this time and again, you know, the 3, 4, 5 man kind of clump up here early in these battlegrounds because, you know, into that mid, you can kind of respond to what your opponents are doing. Now, what's going to be happening though from compLexity is it's going to be a 1-1-3, and you're going to absolutely be making use of that Kerrigan for some roaming potential.
Yeah, and that's one of the more important things, being able to use those. You know, you guys mentioned it already, the abilities for Kerrigan to pull in the enemy teammates and then, of course, stun them. And really, that just gives you that burst potential. If you do catch them out of position, capitalizing on that is a lot easier if you can use Kerrigan to full potential.
Yes, absolutely. So it looks like Trummel, to the short straw, is going to be down here up against that Falstead into the top, Cattlepillar and LexUther. So not really a lot's going to be happening in those lanes by themselves. It's really going to come down to compLexity to try to use that advantage with Kerrigan. You can already see her kind of going back and forth. She is with Hans, though, and Hans is on the Cattlepillar. I would have actually expected to see Blinks on the Malfurion to kind of go roam lane to lane because the root combo just adds much more crowd control this early on.
Yeah, I mean, the only other way I guess you can look at it is with the Cattlepillar, you just go for that damage. Of course, you guys have mentioned more and more over the course of the weekend that damage scales a little bit better towards the later stages of the game, but still a reasonable amount of burst. But now the temples are going to start to activate. For the most part, we've seen teams trade these out and maybe say, okay, I'll take one, you take the other. But Tyrael actually, bit of disruption going on here in the North Temple.
Yeah, the PLEYZ are really going to put up a strong force into the top. Daihuu already up here with PyratRum. They did actually swap out the Falstead. He's going to be in the mid, not the bottom. And usually you would actually see the Falstead into that bottom lane because he can fly up to fights in these top tempo areas. But as you can see bottom, there's two people down there. And now with that mid actually abandoned, it does look like compLexity is not willing to give up these temples without a fight.
No, and it's kind of interesting because most of the time it has been just that very passive, you know, one team cedes one to the other, and getting all that damage in the early game, it's not even as much about getting the damage and opening up those lanes, but getting the experience that you'll grab for knocking down the fortifications as well, and that is really what builds into getting the early edge with getting those talents earlier, especially your heroics, and, you know, compounding later and later into the game for things like the storm talents.
So I'm kind of curious, with this kind of ping pong going back from the mid to the top to the mid, how many shots actually did compLexity get from these temples? Both of them are out. The top, it does look like it went in favor of compLexity. Mid actually does look like it went in favor of compLexity there as well. So the ping pong looks like it actually paid off.
I mean, if you look at the experience-wise, they're very close. They're about to hit 6, and we've only just had 5 hit for the play. So compLexity seems to have found a neat way of using their composition to capitalize on what this map offers, or what this battleground offers in terms of the objectives.
All right, so level 6 to just about 5.5. We're catching up on some of those missed waves a little bit earlier, so I think it might have been a little bit more of an illusion for that level advantage. But coming into this, we are going to be hitting 7 fairly soon, and we're not entirely too sure what we're going to see out of some of the talents. One of them that I do want to talk about is Malfurion does have the option of a mule on this map, and this is amongst the stronger of the maps for a mule because it can repair some of that damage from those temples.
Yeah, well, I guess the only other thing to look at is if they decide to take both temples every time and somehow get all of them, then it won't be that big of a deal. Managing to pick off Tassadar, though, and the first takedown of the game.
The first takeout of the game at 3 in a little bit, and it was on Tassadar as well. How many times did we try to see that Tassadar takedown earlier on in some of the other game series? Does not look like Malfurion will go for the meal here today. Do we have anyone that can actually take it on the flip side? I guess it could be the Tassadar by the end of it. We'll have to see if Zeus is going to pick that up, as he did just hit level 7. He does have the promote, and we don't actually have a promote ready to go here for compLexity, but they will also add a mule to this. Yeah. So mules, you being a Terran player, you know all about the mules, the hardest working guys out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, lots of money, but in this case, a lot of repairing to be done on these fortifications, keeping yourself stable, keeping your team in a comfortable position as you do have to weather the storm of all those temple lasers, especially with how many of them compLexity was able to pick up in the first temple wave. Now the temples are going to activate once again, but the majority of compLexity is actually on the south side of this battleground, so they have an opportunity to jump on it if they really want to.
It's because they already have these bruisers now pushing down top. It looks like the PLEYZ was a little bit too quick on their side. Normally you would have, you know, a bruiser on bruiser battle or a 1-0 kind of exchange, but since the PLEYZ kind of took their bruisers early top, they can just leave that to their own devices forces. It's going to be a big fight down here, and level 9 is on the horizon, which means level 10 is going to be here soon.
Yeah, and that's when the heroic abilities come out, and it gets very, very key here. Falstad is actually going to get snapped up, as well as Rhaegar, and suddenly we have the PLEYZ on the retreat, getting closer and closer to that heroic. Actually, Johanna going to be focused down, pulled in by Kerrigan, not able to escape, and Tyrael jumps to the other side to snap up Jaina. Suddenly, it's just Tassadar all on his own, retreating, not going to be able to defend this fort all by himself.
Absolutely not. And again, that's the big early game strength right there. We had level 9 at the very beginning of that, but by the end of it, with the Tyrael dive in, with that Kerrigan dive in, it's all that big aggression. It's that control. They do get the heroics on that, and that's going to be the end of the plays that the PLEYZ can make in this bottom lane.
Yep, and they've completely smashed down that fortification in the southwest side of the battleground. They have their heroics. The PLEYZ aren't even at level 9 yet. They're not even thinking about busting out those heroics just yet. And if they get forced into another engagement, which I feel like it would be very, very much so in the favor of compLexity to try to do, there's no way they could possibly take it.
Absolutely not. So already it's going from bad to worse here for the PLEYZ. There goes that mid fort as well. The last of the shots in that bottom temple were enough to just kind of take that down, which means we're down 2 forts despite the fact that we do have that Tassadar mule working towards the favor of the PLEYZ. So the damage is absolutely real, and the PLEYZ, they kind of just got to tiptoe around compLexity right now. They're not level 10, but they're very close, which means that they got to pick and choose their battles as very carefully as they can, because if you drop a lot of your teammates just before 10, it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, they're going to be completely out of position. Even with the heroics, they won't be able to make much happen. They have finally hit 10. We're going to see those heroic abilities get taken, and now they'll be feeling, okay, maybe we can take another fight if we have to, but still there's that level advantage. compLexity is about to hit 12, and even just those stats and getting closer to that level 13 talent is going to be more than useful in taking an actual fight.
Now, we shouldn't have a temple for about another 60 seconds or so. You might see the warning come up a little bit earlier than that, but you know, what do you do when the objective is down? You hit the other points on the map. So far, so many red and blue points going back and forth. It has kind of gone into the favor of compLexity, and they're going to be pushed down top while the PLEYZ are going to try to counter push out this bottom.
Yeah, and you know, it's a bit of trading here on the forts. You get experience for both sides for being able to do this, and you're really opening up other areas down the line. And it also comes into play, especially when you look at the possibility of that promote helping to push the lane down, which we're really only going to really see off the Tassadar anyway.
Yeah, and the promotes will help a lot in terms of the defense, in terms of any kind of unattended offense there as well. But, you know, this is actually not the best of trades for the PLEYZ. They did equal out the forts, but they took way too long to take it down, and compLexity just immediately went right next to the gate, and 2 more towers. That's level 13.
Yeah, that's a lot of experience. They're now up an entire talent tier, whereas the PLEYZ have still, you know, they still have to get into level 12 first, so they're looking once again to be in a reasonably substantial deficit in terms of experience, in terms of the levels, and now those temples are coming back without the game even being at parity. How are they supposed to be able to contest those temples?
Well, very likely compLexity is not going to contest both. They're likely to put their strength into the bottom, because if they're down here in the bottom and they start seeing that blue temple into the top, that means that there's at least one person up there. They have the level advantage. They're going to go for boss because of this.
Yeah, I think it also makes a lot of sense that you mentioned that, because they still have the outer fort on the north side, so taking that temple won't get them the value of actually working away on a keep, while the rest of compLexity gets to work on this boss. And you know, Daihoo's going to come down here, he sees it, but what can he really do about it? The rest of the team's coming in. Are they going to really try to steal this?
Well, Tassadar's still not even here. Jaina finally into the back. Great condemn into the Hinterless Blast. That's really actually putting a good note into their favor. Ice blocks are going down, but Tassadar, oh, he's going to be the first here to drop. Gets taken out. Johanna will drop there as well. And it was a really nice combo from the PLEYZ, but unfortunately they don't have those level 13 talents coming out, and that power difference is absolutely showing right here.
Yeah.
LexUther on the skin of his teeth, the edge of his seat, and can Trummel actually pick him down? McIntyre will, and this is not only the boss, but the temple, and very likely the top temple too.
And that chase capability there on Kerrigan, you mentioned this is so key, especially considering that losing that fight means, yeah, they get both temples again, and they're working away on the defenses of this keep now for the PLEYZ.
So you saw exactly how compLexity prioritized this temple split. Bottom for that control. They never saw the blue up top, but because the PLEYZ was already on their way there, and it's finally somebody clues, it's just like, wait, they're not on the map. They didn't show themselves at the temple, and they were at the boss. You know, there was so much travel time kind of wasted there from the PLEYZ, so they couldn't get the map positioning, they didn't get the temple, they lost out the team fight. It's 10 takedowns to 0. Nathanius, it is just not going their way.
Yeah, the PLEYZ have not been able to catch a single break this game, and they're still just about to hit 13, but with complexity about to hit 16, they're still going to find themselves down that talent, and that 16 talent going to be a really big boost to their abilities, and they get ever closer once again to those storm talents.
And once again as well, the sweet spot is here. Complexity is reveling in this. 16 to 13, they get themselves blood for blood, tenacious roots on top of that. 3 blood for bloods by the end of it. The Tyrael, the Kerrigan, and the Sylvanas all have that ready to go. It's an Envenom on top of the Sylvanas as well. Anytime that Johanna shows her face in these team fights, it's going to be 45% of her hit points plus more already out the window.
Yeah, the ability to burst her down, especially considering all of the disruption that she's supposed to cause in these team fights, is going to be huge. And that turns like the crowd control, power straight over to Kerrigan once again with being able to pull them in and go for those big Ravage plays. And there she is right in the center of all of it. There's the Maelstrom. Immediately, Rhaegar gets snapped up. Jaina falls as well. Daihuu is there trying to retreat, but you said it. That Johanna just gets bursted down way too fast to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely just disgusting amount of damage. And with 4 levels advantage, complexity is going to take an 11-minute win on top of this core. The boss did work, the temples did work, they had the siege golems. I'm not entirely too sure we had anything except that one bruiser camp go the way of the PLEYZ, but with that core dropping 70% and going fast, it is for sure going to be a game 1 victory here for complexity as they put the first point on this board of the best of 3.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic play. They really showed a dominating performance over the PLEYZ in the first game of this best of 3. You said that's a pretty quick win there for him.
11 minutes is, it feels like an eternity when you're playing it, but to, the outside observer, 11 minutes is not that long.
Kubi, is that one of the shortest games that we've had so far here this weekend?
I'd say there's a pretty good reason for that, and we highlighted this during the draft a little bit. Kerrigan. Oh my goodness, did we see some plays. McIntyre, the beast on Kerrigan. I actually have a really, really cool replay that we can show you guys exactly why that ended up working out so well. So what we see here is Hans, actually for complexity, gets overextended a little bit, but who's this right up in the upper corner of this map? Of course it is Kerrigan. And what I want to highlight, of course she's gonna ravage in to try to control this fight. But what the more important thing is, right after that happens, she's going to end up moving down very slightly. Yes, you can see right there, and she lines up the hugest Primal Grasp into Impale combo, and this just allows complexity to finish out the rest of that team fight. Some really cool plays, but hold on a second, it's not quite done. She gets another leap into another pole, securing more takedowns for the team. All of these plays were made so successful because of the positioning from McIntyre on Kerrigan.
And that was like the beginning of the end right there as well. They got the heroics, they had the temples, and just, it was dominating performance. I mean, like the next temple spawn as well, they beat out the boss, 4 levels by the end of it, Kubi. Like, Nathaniel, we said it is a short game. I think that actually might be our shortest.
Yeah, that was an absolute beat down by complexity to be able to secure their first map here in the lower bracket. They cannot afford to lose a single best of 3 or they'll be eliminated. So very good for them. We'll be getting ready to go into game 2 shortly. Of course, you guys can try out your powers on the battlefield and test out Heroes of the Storm yourself. Go to heroesofthestorm.com, download and play for free. Get your friends in on it and explore the battlegrounds yourselves. But with that being said, we're going to go to a small break. When we come back, game number 2 between the PLEYZ and complexity.
On phones. Hearthstone on phones. Now you can do battle wherever you may go. Play it here or anywhere. Just grab a phone and Hearthstone's there. Calling all ye heroes. Hearthstone's on phone.
Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. Stick it in your phone. Rated T for teen.
We will never be slaves, but we will be conquerors. World of Warcraft, Warlords of Draenor. Boost to level 90 instantly. Available now. Rated T for teen.
Come out, wherever you are.
Nuclear launch launch detected.
Heroes of the Storm. Get it free at playheroes.com. Rated T for Teen.
Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Heroes of the Storm North America June Open. We just saw compLexity take a 1-0 lead over the PLEYZ in pretty dominating fashion, guys.
Yeah, not just any 1-0 lead. That was an 11-minute 1-0 lead that they jumped to. Very, very convincing plays. And I talked about their potential to have very, very technical plays across all of the heroes that they use. The synergy is when they're on point with that, they look so unstoppable.
I'm going to use the same words that you kind of used a little bit earlier for Cloud9 Vortex. They looked angry, man.
They did, right?
They came out swinging. The Kerrigan pick was on point. So many Primal Grass combos and 4 levels by the end of it. Wow, just absolutely dominating. I think you said it perfectly, Nathaniel.
Yeah, it's really cool. The Kerrigan bans have been pretty real so far this weekend. We haven't seen a very high number of picks, but we've talked about the power that she has in terms of actually being able to get some damage done. And, you know, it's just been really cool to see so far that dominating performance. We're actually going to take a little bit of a look at some of the players from these teams and get a closer insight as both of them still have a very real chance of making it through.
All right, so here's Daihuu, long-standing member here of the PLEYZ. Most picked hero is Chen. That's not something we've seen actually in this tournament. Who knows? Perhaps this could be the day of days for it. But, you know, he's an avid pen collector. I think he has more pens than I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I've never used 115 pens. That's quite impressive.
You can get pretty crazy variety of pens. You know, you go old school, get your fountain pens, your space pens.
You get the rainbow ones.
Yeah,
Disneyland pens that are like this.
Yeah,
big. Yeah.
you've got pens across the millennia, all sorts of different writing utensils that we can employ. And of course, we could take a look at one of the players from compLexity as well, competing so far here in this weekend, doing a good job in that game 1. He's Blinks.
That's right, Alexei Bazhenov. He's from Illinois, and it says here that he owns 17 cats.
I need proof or it didn't happen.
Yes,
This
I know,
detail.
right? Exactly right. I mean, like, we've been talking about this, getting real excited about 17 cats, and then we're just like, does he actually own 17 cats? We need to get some confirmation on this. So
remember, it's quality, not quantity. The QB cat is number 1.
That's right. Yes, maybe is the best cat, of course.
Well, that being said, the next battleground that we'll be taking this series to will be Haunted Mines.
All right, so we've seen this once before from the PLEYZ. They tried to pull this card on Tempo Storm, but if you didn't catch it, 2 lanes here, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a bit of a smaller map. Not a lot of area here to traverse, and only 3 mercenary camps to go with it there as well. You capture them, they're going to do the normal thing. Here's the twist, however. We have a whole nother level that you can go down into, adventure underground, collect them skulls, and this will power the Siege Golem, the Grave Golem, and man, he is a fearsome beast. The more skulls you get, the stronger your Golem is, even if you don't collect a single skull. Both teams will have those Golems marching down, so it's a big game of ebb and flow.
Yeah, and you can really build momentum off of getting those skulls to create a Golem powerful enough to push down those forts. And if they get the kind of momentum that they had on the last battleground, this very small field that they'll be playing on, things could get ugly quickly if compLexity brings that same sharpness out into this game.
Yes, but I gotta say, I do enjoy that they're trying to own this battlefield as their own. So we need to see these types of different plays from the teams, and if they're going to make Haunted Mines something that they're feared on, even though it wasn't so successful against Tempo Storm, I'm okay with them picking this to just try to lock down that strategy and really show that they are strong here.
All right, so guys, but just before we jump into the draft, join the conversation. Follow us at Blizz Heroes. Use the hashtag HeroesWC. You might find yourself on stream making some of those cool comments, and you know what? That's a bragging right to your friends.
And you get that opportunity to say, I told them that Kerrigan was way too strong, and it was on stream. That means it's 100% true if it's on the internet. But that being said, let's get into this draft. Let's see who we're going to have actually playing here on Haunted Mines.
All right, so Kubi, would we see another Kerrigan? I guess we're not going to see another Kerrigan.
Hey, I said this is game 1. You can't let compLexity have Kerrigan. We've seen this time and time again. They are terrifying on this hero, and that game is a perfect example of why that's the case.
Now, another very common first pick or ban on Haunted Mines. The power of Sylvanas and those black arrows, Nathaniel, it's just too much.
Yeah, when you only have so few forts to hold, if Sylvanas neutralizes them, then things can snowball very, very quickly as they're already unable to fire, especially since the team's attention will be split across those mines. But Illidan, first pick from the PLEYZ.
Very, very good call. I like that, we've seen Illidan time and time again this tournament making a lot of plays, but I think that Zeratul is something that compLexity is also very, very comfortable running. They don't need to grab it right away because honestly, Illidan and Zeratul, they don't pair that well together. It's not something that we see all that often on the same team together. So I think the compLexity is going to wait it out if they are going to grab it.
All right, so Jaina, Abathur. The Abathur has the deny pick here to compLexity, but as you said, that could go absolutely wonderfully with that Zeratul. It's up to the players to kind of see if they are going to figure that part out and ban it. But Tassadar, Anubarak, Sylvanas, Anubarak, and Zagara, all fantastic pushers on this map.
Yeah, I mean, you really think about it, having the way that it's all set up, and I think you made a really good point about not having to worry about that Zeratul Illidan combination, since they're be looking to get up close and personal. You don't want to Void Prison half the team when you're trying to Metamorphosis steal all of their health. But now we're going into the second bans, and we do have that Uther deny, because that divine Shield on Illidan, when he does get in the mix of things, could be very, very tricky to handle.
And there's the Zeratul ban, Kubi.
Okay, so they recognize the potential for this to happen. compLexity, I'm sure they knew this could be a possibility as well. So what is their backup plan? What is going to be their next two hero picks to try to get aggressive? Because that really seems to be the name of the game for compLexity.
If it's not a Johanna right here, and it's not, it's
definitely not.
Again?
Okay.
Again, yeah, again.
All right, let's take a look at Arthas. Why is he so special? A hero that we don't see all that often. We can see his kit here. The big one, of course, is that Frozen Tempest. He puts an aura up around him that slows enemies' heroes and does constant damage over time to them. So you'll see him very much in the thick of things, throwing down that and just making sure that he can control the enemy heroes, but also Army of the Dead. Usually the common choice for the heroics, but we are Haunted Mines, so there is a potential to see some Sindragosa locking out those forts and keeps.
So far this weekend, no Sindragosas, but you never know. I mean, right now, compLexity Gaming, they're looking to bring the pain. If that's going to be their only warrior, it's very likely for Army of the Dead, but you never know.
I'd say if there's any map to make a case for Sindragosa, it's probably Haunted Mines.
Don't got a Sylvanas, go for a Sindragosa.
Now, we saw this yesterday, and we do have the Rhaegar, Tyrael as the last two picks for the PLEYZ, though we saw them try to pull into this map. How is the Arthas a counter pick to the map that they've chosen as their pick, I guess?
Well, they're gonna probably, depending on what this last pick here is, which should be a range damage or another warrior for going blow for blow with those tankier guys. The Abathur hat is very likely to be sitting on the Arthas, and the Arthas will slow you, will root you, and you can't get away. And all right, we'll talk about that. But that just lends a lot of damage to Abathur. So it might be on Arthas, it might be on Sonya.
We need to talk about Sonya.
All right, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about Sonya. First time we have seen Sonya picked in this tournament thus far, and it is also a hero that you could sort of classify. It is a warrior, but sort of more of like that bruiser style. A lot of damage output, very possible. She has the Ancient Spear, which can launch her to enemy heroes, sort of like a reverse Stitches hook, if you will. The Seismic Slam is the big one, though. That is a large AoE, continually, very low cooldown. She can keep firing those out to put a lot of pressure on the enemy team.
Nathanius, congratulations, your first Sonya of the weekend.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. The Barbarians coming in. I'm very excited to see. We do actually have the game starting up, so all these interesting picks being made by the PLEYZ when they drop the first battleground. We're going to Haunted Mines. We've got Arthas and Sonya. I don't know what to say.
Well, let me fill that void for you. The play is going to be coming out here on the left-hand side. LexUther, Zeus, PyratRum, Daihuu, and into the top lane it will be Evandrinde on that Tassadar. It will likely be a 4-1 split for them with a Tassadar on a solo, and we'll get to that in a little bit as to why. But compLexity as well. Those picks, Nathanius, Trummel, Hans, Cattlepillar, Blinks, and into that top lane, it's going to be McIntyre. He showed us a great Kerrigan game. What did we show us here with Sonya?
Yeah, McIntyre on the Sonya. I'm very excited to see how up close and personal this composition works. You guys have already touched on, the Abathur hat potential on Arthas, but also Arthas is slow, keeping everybody from escaping those big AoE spells from Jaina, and also Sonya being able to get up close and personal with all those direct damage that she can do, like the Whirlwind and her AoE stomp as well.
Now, when Arthas does actually surface here in the North American scene, sometimes we do see a little bit in terms of a difference in terms of as a bruiser, as a warrior, like an actual tank frontline damage soaker. This round it's a little bit more old school. Arthas is going to take block initially, at least early on here. And something to note, again, so I said 4-1 split, right? But you might see only 3 members here. compLexity, that's because right behind them there is that Abathur just kind of chilling there in the back. He's looking for those symbiote productions. But that top lane is almost guaranteed to be going the way of Sonya, at least early on. But it's not going to have to last too long, because we will have those mines spawning in the next minute and a bit.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, do you feel that the Sonya play acts, is equally confusing as it is for us? How much practice would the PLEYZ have had against a Sonya?
That is an excellent question. If they're not prepared for the leap, or it might not even be the leap. I've seen Wrath of the Berserkers in my Hero League days, but if it's going to be the leap combo, it'll be leap for the Arthas so that he can get out the Hauling Blast, perhaps even the Sindragosa, and that leads the way for Jaina. Remember, it's the double frost damage dealers here on the side of complexity.
A lot of slows once those team fights begin, so very important to keep eyes open for that, and it'll be even more interesting to see how that goes against, the melee potential that's going to come out of Illidan, since he's the one that's looking to get right in the thick of things later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Sonya as a little bit of a counter to Illidan, I'm not entirely too sure it would work on paper, but with complexity and their strength, look at this collapse. Sonya comes right down into it, and already Anubarak gets removed right off of the battleground. Trummel is really low hit points. He's actually going back and forth and juggling, and look at that. He will survive. One more heal there from Blinks, and the quick 2-0 turnaround. They're still actually going up top with that Sonya, and every time that we get low, they just go right back to Blinks. He heals him up, but Sonya also has a lot of self-sustain. The Arthas, a lot of self-sustain. The Abathur there as well, with the shields, with the actual little bit of extra burst damage. This is a really hard comp to kill from complexity.
Yeah, by pushing them all the way back, even though, wow, they come straight into the mines and immediately die again. Rhaegar gets snapped up.
No way.
Jaina
No
making a
way.
run for it. That Polymorph trying to buy some time.
Trummel, man, if he survives out of this one, that's 2 for
boy.
2. The
Oh,
heal
wow,
comes
they
in.
turn around
The
and
movement
snap.
speed is enough. Oh, Jaina will actually drop. Oh, my heart of hearts right there. But they took out the Tyrael as well. Evandra's not really looking that great. You see the Abathur hat on top of Cattle. He's slowing down. He's doing a lot of massive AoE damage. The Illidan looked for it, but he can't get it. Cattle will live out of that one.
This has just been a very bloody game. We've already have 8 takedowns between the two of these teams in the first 3 minutes.
That's a new record.
Non-stop action. if you came for thrills, you're getting them.
All right, now remember, the point of this this battleground is skulls. So 40 skulls to 22. All those takedowns aside, you got to try to power up those golems. So far in the lead, it will be complexity. And you see McIntyre, again, another good survivable jungler out there as well. Heals himself on whirlwinds. Double against heroes, but still good enough to kind of get the job done into this bottom area. So 48 skulls, and still the battle continues.
Yeah, and we do have that pick off of Jaina in the mines, but the skull advantage currently in favor of complexity. Biggest things I guess to be looking for is how they can jockey for positioning on the actual Grave Golem underground, but it seems that the PLEYZ are going to be able to get that. Yeah,
level 4 now looking for level 7 very quickly here from complexity. How many promotes on the table? Tassadar with 1. Brightwing not actually promoting this round. If you look at those level 4s there, Nathanias, Brightwing with the Envenom to go with the Jaina Envenom. Double Envenom early on is a big reason why you've seen already so many of those takedowns.
And it's really just a crazy amount of damage to be pushed out, and it's like it's a really powerful kill compositions being picked here. So with this setup now, just trying to secure some of the camps since the objectives have mostly been taken care of, and these golems relatively equal strength, just what, a 4 lead for the PLEYZ.
Yeah, so we did actually have that skull advantage for a while there from complexity, but there's that big golem down there as well, and he's worth 30 skulls in the bottom of this battleground. So what you do, if you almost already have 50, and the first golems are usually not the end game makers right there, you go for the other objectives. So when the objectives are down, you look at the other points. Already that mid taken out. Now we got Siege Giants pushing out bottom. That has left TPZ a little bit more on the back foot, and the PLEYZ haven't really been able to push out. Now it looks like they're in position to kind of push out, but look at Cattle. He's in that bush, and so far they haven't spotted him, and he's going to go for it.
Yeah, he runs straight in. Of course, then we see that AoE slow coming in. LexUther trying to make it away, but not able to, as he does get snapped up, and there's a level up again. Tyrael also getting snapped down as Zeus just tries to escape through the mines.
All right, so the push not going to work here from the PLEYZ. They're basically relegated to defense for the rest of this. We do have those Siege Giants working away on this Grave Golem, as well as the rest of the team of complexity. They're going to be able to snipe it out very quickly, and then they're going to transfer up top and try to push down as hard as they can. You see Evandrinde there in that defense capacity. Another mule here, which is, again, another great map for it.
Yeah, I mean, acts as a reasonable slowdown, at least, to the pace of this Grave Golem pushing it, but since they've already cleared up the one on the bottom, complexity can rotate to the top, try to assist theirs, and they've actually pulled most of the PLEYZ out of here now. Still not everybody completely in position. They have the Abathur hat coming in as well. There's the big stunts coming in. Arthas gets snapped up, though, and that's a lot of damage removed, but also Illidan.
Yep, Illidan is going to be the trade out, and I'm not entirely too sure Zeus will get out of it, and he will not. The root will not land on top of Daihuu, but remember, that fort is busy with the Golem. It's not going to be turning around on top of the heroes here of compLexity. And McIntyre into the back. He has the Sonya, he has that Abathur hat and the symbiote. It's so very close to taking out Tassadar, but they still might even get the fort out of it, Nathaniel.
Yeah, I mean, grabbing this fort here would be so nice, especially considering how close they are to hitting those heroic abilities. In fact, even just backing up and waiting for a little bit more EXP could be worth it to take a big fight. But at the same time, those siege golems that we talked about, there's so few mercenary camps on this battleground that it can just give you such a big advantage. There's no counterplay to this because, you know, there's not really any other siege golems to take.
Yeah, and everybody was out defending into the top. Everyone was aggressing into the top. They left that bottom lane to its own devices, and that gate's down. The towers are out of ammo, and it's, you know, more and more experience. Level 10 now here for compLexity. They have those heroics. Is it going to be that leap? Is it going to be the Wrath of the Berserker? Not entirely too sure yet, but Army of the Dead, just like what QB was talking about for that Arthas, he is very much a tank Arthas build. It's not a Frostmourne build. It's block and rune tap into Army of the Dead. He is not going to go down easy.
So at the very least, as he sits there soaking up lots of damage, he'll be able to use his slows to create opportunities for his teammates to pick up those takedowns, as it were. And so far, they've done a phenomenal job of working together in that department. Not only are they ahead in level, but you know they've got 12 takedowns to just 3 of the PLEYZ, and the forts have been traded out relatively evenly, but just, man, they've gotten so much EXP off the back of all these aggressive pushes that they've been able to make work.
All right, so I kind of theorized a little bit with Syndragosa, with leap builds here from the Sonya. It is Wrath of the Berserker, and what does this do? It basically makes her a huge pain factory. So you can already see she's chunking down this fort easily. She kind of looks really cool with that Wrath set. It's a great skin, and it accents that Wrath very beautifully because the swords kind of glow out. So the enemy team, when they see Sonya Wrath and engage, they're going to have to clear the path. They're going to have to go for that retreat, but they did just hit 10. Now they can actually fight this out, and that Wrath is going to be down, but as well, we also have those clones coming in. And how many clones have we seen on Arthas this weekend? Quite a few.
Yeah, and with this setup, you get the second slow from that, of course, being able to jump in and try to get all of that area effect damage in, bursting through now. There we have the Metamorphosis trying to make something happen for Illidan and doing absolute best to stay alive. Rhaegar not able, and it looks like actually Illidan is going to get snapped up, so that's the biggest damage dealer. Sonya is still kicking for just a little bit longer at least.
Yep, Rhaegar's down as well. They were able to take down the Brightwing, but Tyrael's also going to drop here. McIntyre with that Wrath of the Berserker. You look at him, he just looks so fierce
and the
with
cooldown.
That skin. And the cooldown is not that much. The damage is real. The Whirlwinds just did amazing amounts of work. We actually had the clone on top of from Hans on Trummel, so it was double Jaina. It's still double ice magic, but they went for big damage bursts, and I think that it really worked out well for them.
It's so nice because we didn't get to see Sonya at all this weekend so far, but being able in those big team fight scenarios to use that Whirlwind to get that double heal bonus against all the other heroes is so nice. That extra bit of sustain without needing the help of the healer really made the difference, I think.
Now, a big thing here with this comp as well from the PLEYZ. Oh, remember there's skulls on the map? Yeah, 96 to 4, by the way. compLexity just sweeped right through after that that team fight. But the PLEYZ, they don't really have a lot of tools in their tool belt here to stop the Whirlwind from Sonya. It's going to be up to the Nubarak to really kind of keep tabs on top of McIntyre and try to stun out those Roans as much as he can. If that's not going to happen, it has to be the judgment from Tyrael. You don't really want to be judging that Sonya. You want to be getting into the backline on top of not only the Brightwing, but that Jaina. You know, get those damage dealers. Sonya is just such a huge threat to this team.
It's really crazy that actually it's even pulled our attention mostly onto Sonya in these fights, but you still have Jaina that can unleash so much pain behind all of this, and you know that Arthas just being a pain in their side as they move through, and we can see that the PLEYZ Golem dropping pretty fast, and this big red one for compLexity up top is quite a nuisance.
Yeah, there goes the 4 guy into the bottom. Those Siege Giants once more just kind of contributing a lot to that damage output. But 96, I hear the Sonya going to town again. Towers are going to be out. The gate is down. The Whirlwind damage is massive, and already still just over half health. This Golem is going to go for this keep.
Yeah, pushing into the northern keep here on the battleground, and this is just so frustrating to have to deal with because the whole enemy team is here as well. You can't just dive right on top of this. It's actually going to push through and try to just snipe some of these players. Hans manages to back up just in time off that clone, and with all those slowing, all that ice spells, retreating from these dives, not really an option for the PLEYZ.
McIntyre went from 2 bars of health up to 6 with just that one Whirlwind. The keep is down. The Golem is going for this core. We could have, again, another 11-minute win from compLexity as they are just coming out swinging. They are looking for blood, and they are anxious to get that rematch up against Cloud9 Vortex in the next series here in the lower bracket. And I gotta say, the Sonya pick, the Arthuses, it has been a treat.
They did it in style, busting out the first Sonya pick we've seen this weekend to take the 2-0 here for compLexity, and what a